go to your,
Oh, there it is. Oh, it's gonna make me sign that.
what if you click on this tab? Are you in it over here?
It's never done this before. That was,
Loading, hold on.
I do have to sign in. Yes.
Yeah, click that again, that email, and now put your thumb over here.
Yeah, I don't think I'm on it. I don't think my thumb's on it. So type
And then you should be able to hit this right here. Is that the right email?
yeah, it's not doing it. I have to type it in, but I got to. How we doing on time?
We are ready whenever you are. Just turn forward back.
Great down there.
Redevelopment Commission is a part of the city government.
Tom, we're gonna be here, I wonder? He's not.
He's on the board.
I saw an email in there. And she was asking who was gonna be here.
All right, let's call this order.
I'll sit, okay, yes, sir.
Let's call this meeting of the Redevelopment Commission for the City of Warsaw to order. We'll start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item is the approval of the minutes from our last meeting on January 6th. I assume you guys have had a chance to read those over.
Make a motion to approve.
Okay, Bill has made a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
It's presented. Jack has seconded. Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
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 You might want to take a roll call, just for the minutes.
You think?
Joe's missing.
He's missing, but he's not on. I only have to do that if he's
Okay,
on the,
Yeah, just note that.
yeah. We note that Joe,
Okay.
yeah, Joe is
okay.
absent today. Welcome to the visitors. New business, Jeremy?
So we have a resolution, but prior to the resolution, Street Department's gonna give a couple of presentations that were sent out to you about a week ago. Some of you might have sat through these presentations at different times throughout the last couple of weeks. And then Randy and Andrew with Baker Tilly are here to discuss what the resolution talks about, as well as any questions from the presentation. So we'll go ahead and turn it over to Dustin. He'll give his presentation, and then we'll go from there.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. I think we've kind of caught most everybody with just kind of an overview, but just kind of an informative deal here in person to kind of let you know what we're trying to do here, what we're leaning towards. So just working through our issues. This was just a brief picture here, one of the most recent snowstorms that we just had. As you can see, you know, when the guys come back to take a break, just a lack of room. We have to park everything outside. There's not room in the current facility to be able to get in and out of the cold, work on things, check on blades, or any of the above. So get working through our issues. So Next thing is just kind of just an overview of what our Public Works Department is doing. It's a little more uncommon across the state. We're not a street department that is just working on plowing snow, patching potholes, and picking up leaves. We still do our own refuse collection operations. We do our own paving, or at least 80% of our paving. We have a concrete sidewalk replacement program that we usually are replacing about a mile of sidewalk with our in-house crews a year. Again, our pavement preservation between crack seal, seal coating, things of that nature to preserve our roads and protect them. Anti-icing and snow plowing, of course, leaf collection. Fleet maintenance, our mechanics, crew, we're taking care of the entire city's fleet. The police department and parks department do have a mechanic on some smaller items, but anything big comes to us. So that's a huge deal that we'll dive into a little more in depth here in a little bit. As far as oversight of all contractor work citywide, we're going out and helping with any inspections and overviews of things to make sure that new projects and new developments are put in correctly. Traffic signal and traffic flow maintenance operations, making sure our citizens are safe. So a lot across the board going on, which has grown significantly over years past. So our biggest challenges are capacity issues. You look right here, I mean, if you want to come out and figure out how to put 10 gallons of stuff in a 5-gallon bucket, we'll certainly try to show you how. So we've redesigned, kind of remapped out, changed things around multiple times to try to figure out how we can make it as most efficient and effective as possible. So again, growing fleet, growing abilities, growing responsibilities, as well as growing pains. Just look here, max capacity, our brine room on the left where we are making our own brine in-house, or salt brine that we applicate for anti-icing ahead of storms. We have the capacity right now. We can spray the entire city almost once. We do have to make brine as we are going. Futuristic goals to be able to have enough on hand or have enough storage capacity to not have to do that or be manufacturing at the same time we're applicating. So current realities and struggles. Here you see a couple of the additions. Our original shop, I was sharing with Mr. Sloan, I think you guys seen the handout. Original shop was built originally in 1960. So they're already working at a 65-year-old facility. There has been several additions. A lot of those were a little bit more need specific than what we would like. I'm sure they handled what the objective was at the time. But here you see some very low clearance, undersized clearance heights. You can only change around so much. You're not going to put dump trucks in these areas. They just weren't built for it originally. And just too costly to go through and try to revamp now. So we're utilizing it, we're getting by, we're doing the best we can with it. But it is just the equipment has changed a lot since 1960 and the overall size, the capacity, as well as what our responsibilities are now. So just to look at that. Again, the storage, not having enough storage. This was a couple weeks ago, coming in at 4 o'clock in the morning, get the truck started and heated up so they're able to get out before morning traffic. And keep our roads safe for workers coming in and commute inside the city limits. So again, lots of dollars sitting outside. It does take time for those trucks to warm up. You don't just start them up and take off running just like what you do with your own vehicle. So again, it's just a time, the efficiency to respond. The undersized maintenance shop. Again, this was one of the deals. We did not have room in the shop, so we've got the mobile lifts outside with the guys working on a garbage truck out in the parking lot, the maintenance facility of just an undersized floor capacity. Limited employee locker space. Currently at the street department we have 36 full-time employees with at least 2 to 3 part-timers coming in throughout the year. But you pack 36 people in this little room here. That's your break, your lunch room, your locker room. The whole works there. So we are at absolutely max capacity with no more room for growth at all. Shared office space. And here's two of our road supervisors. They're sharing an office because we're out. Again, you can see, the window unit for the AC, as the mayor's pointed out to me multiple times, the lights hanging from the ceiling there. Just a very old, inefficient facility, but do have the growth of the city. We got more roadway, more neighborhoods, more assets, more employees, more maintenance. Again, what's built must be, or taken over, must be then maintained. Since 2017, we've averaged 3.5 miles of roadway added per year. 2013, we had 88 center lane miles of road. That number grew to almost 104 currently in 10 years. So, we went from 217 total lane miles to now we're at like 240. So huge growth here in the last 6 years. Increased housing, more refuse collection coming in. There's a few subdivisions, obviously, that are still on the building process now and still moving, which we're happy to have. But with that comes more growth, comes more responsibility. So our current facility has a very inefficient facility flow. As you've seen in many of the pictures, you're always moving something to get another piece of equipment you need out. Additions were built to need specific to meet current desires. Size of equipment is much different than what it was originally designed for. Fleet is much larger with the growth of duties over time. Again, we're doing all our own paving and a lot of concrete work and things of that nature. Our own trash service. I mean, it's just a growing fleet. An outdated HVAC system. I think we have 4 different styles at the current campus out there right now. So again, when it comes to filters or just maintenance activities, and an outdated structure is high repair costs. We do a lot of the stuff. We're lucky and fortunate with our crews that are available, or their ability to work on a lot of these repairs and stuff in-house, but we're still spending anywhere from about $34,000 to $50,000 a year on average on just maintenance facilities, or at the facility. So that being said, that is what the old facility looks like. Get to So working with Robinson on design, I'll just take you through a quick run through of what we potentially have planned here. So moving the thing into an L shape, our current structure, the office or management team staff is up in the front building. The equipment operators refuse collection is in the center building, and the mechanic staff is clear back in the back. So always hunting someone down. So there's just kind of an overview of the building. Everything would be under one roof. Got the employee entrance, visitor entry. Front office, you can kind of see through the double doors there. There's the counter out there for a secured entry before allowing anybody into the building, just higher volume of security for the future. Office space, kind of the break room. This we did design as our current capacity. We have 36 employees. That not all the employees are out in the locker room, obviously, with the management. The office staff are up in the front office and the mechanics, but we did build this instead of a 25 current guys on the street to a 45 person capacity. So allowed plenty of room for growth that'd be there. Part storage, again, the second storage above the office for a training room, as well as the sign shop. We do make all our own signs in-house. We order the blanks and make them at a much cheaper price than what we can purchase them for outright. Just the main truck storage, so this is where all our plow trucks and such would park in. Our current shop that was again built in 1960 was 6,400 square feet roughly. This is right at 20,000, so more than 3 times what the space was that we currently have. Should allow us to indeed hold everything inside and be able to park all our vehicles inside. The mechanic shop, this is more than 3 times what their size is as well, but here they have the fabricating bay. We do a lot of fabricating and building of trucks in-house, parts storage up above, oil room with secondary confinement through the double doors there. And just again, to see the kind of space with a semi and a fire truck parked in there. These are drive-through bays, so if they had to work on something or we're waiting on parts, they can always bring something in from the other side. And then an added wash bay instead of climbing up on trucks or wet or slick trucks, icy trucks in the wintertime. They put a catwalk across the top to where we can justify using that. But again, just looking at the mechanics bay in general, the mechanics team is staffed out of the Public Works Department, so we do not track their Public Works work or efforts or labor costs there because they're part of our staff and our payroll, but we do track it for all the other departments on how many hours. Last year, the mechanics team worked 2,500 hours on other, units of the city outside of Public Works Department. We have averaged that at $200 an hour, and that's just kind of calling around and seeing where these things are at. But they're working on anything from a fire truck to pickup trucks, and we're not talking just oil changes and tire rotations. They're doing full-blown engine overhauls, engine replacements, transmission replacements. I mean, they're doing some significant mechanical repairs on these vehicles. So we average that at $200 an hour. Comes up with what we're figuring our estimated cost savings to the city is around $500,000 right there on just what the mechanics team is able to do. So very, very valuable, piece for the city. It's increased. I think the memo that we sent out to everybody had that on there and showed you from the last, 7 or 8 years how much it's increased each year. But it's a growing thing, a growing responsibility, and it's a growing need for the city as many fleet ups, as we have. So, any questions there for me? Well, with that, then I will turn it back over to Jeremy.
So you have a resolution in front of you, and I can have Randy or Tom explain the resolution. Andrew is here if you have any questions on the financial information that was sent out to you last week. I don't know if, Andrew, if you want to go over that as well. I mean, I'll leave that up to you. Would you like him to go over the financial section?
I think it would be good just
Okay.
because it's a public meeting.
Okay, well,
What do you think, George?
Fine with that.
Appreciate the patience. Andy Mauser with Baker Tilly. I serve as financial advisor to the City and Redevelopment Commission. So did want to maybe just highlight a few points, and then I think many of you probably have a copy of our numbers from December 16th, in which we had prepared several financing scenarios, and I do have a few extra copies that would be helpful to pass those around. But what's being proposed here, although we are coming to you as a redevelopment commission, is a repayment structure that is actually intended to be fully repaid from property taxes. So I know typically when we would be in front of you as a redevelopment commission, we would be looking at TIF revenues, other redevelopment commissions specific revenues. And the intent here, and I'll let Randy and Tom explain the logic behind using the redevelopment authority, redevelopment commission structure. But again, the intent is that repayment would fully come from property taxes. And then there would be an ability that the city in the future could contribute other revenues, including TIF, to help buy down that debt service. But there is no direct obligation. And really what is being proposed on the property tax side is not something new. This is something the city has done many times in the past. A couple of recent projects include the Southside Fire Station that was done in 2016 through a more traditional general obligation bond. Also the Parks Department project that was done through a more traditional Parks District bond back in 2023. And the city, being a fast-growing community, not only population-wise, but assessed value-wise, as your tax base grows, it continues to push your tax rates down. And that's what we've seen over the last several years. Your city tax rates since 2019 are actually down about 8 to 10 cents per $100 of assessed value from where they were just 6 years ago. And that gives you the ability to issue additional debt service that can be done on a tax rate neutral basis. So without increasing tax bills for your property taxpayers, because we've seen those tax rates continue to come down. So again, we've seen about an 8 to 10 cent decline in city tax rates over the last several years. And we're estimating, worst case scenario with this project would be an addition of about 6 to 7 cents on the property tax rates. And then going forward, you would have the ability to either levy for that entire property tax payment each year, or the city would have the ability to utilize local income tax, tax increment, other revenues to the extent they are available, and then that would reduce what would actually be levied on your property taxpayers. So be happy to maybe just highlight a couple items in those December 16th numbers. We did include 3 estimates based on various project sizes. I'll turn your attention to scenario 3, which does assume a $13 million project. And if you maybe flip to page 10 in that handout, you can see estimated. Thank you. So you can see on page 10, estimated repayment on the financing would be repaid over a 20-year period, estimating interest rates ranging from about 3.5% to 4.75%, and total annual payment of about $1.1 million. Again, that $1.1 million is what the city could absorb with about a 6 to 7 cent impact on the tax rate, which again is, again, filling in where tax rates have declined here in recent years. Page 11 of that analysis then shows the new debt obligation compared to your outstanding property tax supported debt issuances. So on that page, you'll see the 2016 general obligation bond for the Southside Fire Station. Those will be fully repaid in 2031. The 2023 Parks District bonds for the new Parks Department project, those will be fully repaid in 2031. And then what you'll see with the new repayment, again, just shy of $1.1 million per year, that would be essentially layered on top of the other debt obligations. So you'd see about a 5 to 6 year overlap. And then as the 2016 bonds and 2023 bonds are fully repaid, then those tax rates would actually come back down even further from where they are currently. And then we do show just potential for tax impacts. Slide 12 of the analysis does show, with a 6 to 7 cent impact, how that could affect property taxpayers. Any tax impacts would be limited to your lower valued homes and then commercial and industrial property. Many of your taxpayers in the city are already at the property tax caps, and so even an increase in property tax rates, they would not see an increase in their property tax bill. But again, the intent would be, as your assessed value continues to grow, or as the city would look to other revenues to help buy down that debt service, the actual impact on taxpayers would be much less than what is shown here. So be happy to answer questions on the concepts or the numbers more specifically. And then I know Randy and Tom can give you a little bit of background on, again, kind of the logic behind the Redevelopment Authority, Redevelopment Commission structure.
Any questions for Andy? Thank you, Andy. I'll have Randy come up and talk a little bit about the resolution.
Good afternoon. Randy Rumpolo with Barnes & Thornburg with offices in South Bend. I have with me Tom Everett, who's been working on the transaction as well, and you may hear from him time to time during the course of the calendar as we move forward. The resolution before you is the first resolution, the first action that would be taken. Before we get into details, I would say, and I'll probably repeat myself, as the Redevelopment Commission acts, so shall the Common Council, right? Everything that the Redevelopment Commission will do with this project will be approved by the Common Council. In fact, there's a similar resolution before the council or on the council agenda for this evening to approve of the action you would be taking here today to the extent you would do adopt the resolution. The first question, and Andy mentioned the fire station was a general obligation bond, and this is a lease, and why is there a difference? It's structured as a lease because of the size of the project. There's a constitutional debt limit, which is 2%. The number is 2% of the assessed value in the city. That worked for projects 100 years ago. It doesn't work for large projects anymore. And so most of the large projects, school corporation renovations or new buildings, county jail or county courthouse projects are done through a lease financing. Cities are doing it for street department buildings like this or new city halls. So to being able to finance larger projects, you can't use general obligation bonds, and so communities will use this lease financing mechanism. You may remember it, we used a version of it for the Gatke transaction last year, closed last year. And so this here, the lease financing here will allow the project to be financed. The bonds will be paid from a lease payment, and the lease payment will be in turn supported by or funded by the tax levy that Andy walked through. The reason why we're here before you is because there are different types of lease transactions that can be done. The civil city can do a lease financing through a building corporation. The Redevelopment Commission can do a lease financing through a redevelopment authority. So why are we using the Redevelopment Commission or proposing to use the Redevelopment Commission and not the civil city? One, because it'll be more efficient and cheaper to the city to do that. And the reason for that is what we would lease. A redevelopment commission has the ability to lease streets, and that's exactly what you did in the Gatke transaction. If you recall, we talked about leasing of streets. The civil city is limited to leasing structures. They would have to lease buildings. And given the size and scope of this project, we'd have to look at what assets the city has to be able to fund that kind of a lease, that level of a lease. And it would be easier to do a lease of streets. And so it would be better for the Redevelopment Commission, Redevelopment Authority financing technique to be able to use that lease structure rather than the civil city. It does provide some benefits as well, because when you lease streets, you don't have to insure them. If we lease a building, we have to provide rental interruption insurance. So if the building were destroyed in a tornado, God forbid, or a fire, there would have to be 2 years of insurance to pay the lease rentals that would be due. It's either business interruption or lease rental interruption insurance. With streets, that's not the case. We can always substitute different streets. So it's a little more efficient. We wouldn't have to get an appraisal of the building. So by using the redevelopment process, again, it's a little bit easier and cheaper from the city standpoint. The costs of doing this up front are cheaper, and then the cost of the longer term lease would be cheaper because you're not paying for insurance that you don't need. Finally, when the bonds are sold, they would be rated. The rating agencies much prefer leasing of streets than buildings because from some of the things I just mentioned, buildings can burn down. And streets are always there. Cities, one thing you can count on that will always be in a city will be streets. And so if we lease a particular street in 5 years, something needs to happen, that street needs to close for some reason, the documents would allow for, and certainly the city would have access to other streets that could be leased. And so that's exactly what we did in the Gatke transaction. We leased streets, and we would just propose to lease different streets here. That would be helpful from a financing standpoint. It's the last thing I would say before getting into the resolution. It's a street department project. Most of the things that we've been in front of you with have been economic development projects. And so it's a little bit different in that sense as well for the Redevelopment Commission. And here, this building does qualify as a local public improvement, and that term is defined in the redevelopment statute. So legally, we certainly can have the Redevelopment Commission, Redevelopment Authority lease structure be used for this type of facility. The structure of it would be that the Redevelopment Authority would issue bonds, the Redevelopment Commission would enter into a lease with the authority, and the commission would lease streets from the authority, meaning then that the city would transfer its interest in certain streets to the authority. The authority would lease them to the commission would pay lease rentals back, and it's those lease rentals then that would pay the bond debt service. I'm thinking of the lease rentals. The lease rentals would then be paid by the commission from that tax levy. The tax levy would be on the civil city, the boundaries of the civil city, because the redevelopment district that the Redevelopment Commission is in charge of has the same boundaries as the civil city. So it's not as if, no one's being taxed more, nobody's being taxed less because of using redevelopment versus the city. It's all the same. It just allows us the ability to lease streets, which is more beneficial to the city in this circumstance. If you had existing structures that were large and could support the lease rentals that would be paid for that period of time, then we might suggest that. What I was thinking of is capitalized interest. During construction of the new building, we would be paying debt service on those bonds. We can't pay a lease rental. The Redevelopment Commission, if we were leasing the new building, we couldn't pay a lease rental on that building until it was complete and ready for use. And so one way we get around that is to lease streets. Again, those streets are always there, so when these bonds are issued, if everything goes forward later in the year, we could make a debt service payment beginning next year while the new building is under construction. So we save on capitalized interest, and all capitalized interest is the amount of bond proceeds that you would set aside. You would borrow money to basically pay debt service until that construction were completed. We don't need that here, because we can pay debt service immediately, so we're not adding to the cost of the financing from that standpoint. The resolution that's before you is simply the first step. It is authorizing 2 public hearings to be held at your next meeting in February and the following meeting in March, the February 18th meeting and the March 3rd meeting. There are by statute, 2 public hearings that have to be held. The council would act tonight to authorize those as well. Because the commission and the authority would be the primary movers in the project, the hearings will be before you, but the council will approve the form of the lease and authorize its execution as well later in the process also. So all this resolution does, very short and sweet, authorizes the notice to be published. We will send it to the paper. It would be published later this week to set the 2 hearings. At the 2 hearings, anybody from the public can speak. There'll be financial information that'll be available. In addition to what Andy provided today, there would be financial information available specifically required by the statutes so that the public is aware of the impact of the project. Once those hearings are done, some notices are published, the approvals from the council are had, and we would then go into the rating and the bond sale process. We are anticipating if we follow the schedule, the bonds would be closing in early June, which aligns with the anticipated construction timeframe. So I've droned on a bit, but I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions for Randy or on the resolution? So this is kind of the kickoff start of this process. So the resolution is basically just authorizing the advertising for the public hearings and does set a not to exceed cap of the 14.5 million. We're working to keep that obviously below that dollar amount as we move forward. Andrews went over some of the financing. I think the key takeaway, and we've talked about these in other meetings, is that it's our intent to kind of keep this a net neutral impact on the taxes, whether it be through our growth and through edit and TIF. We'll have flexibility to buy down any, if we don't achieve the growth needed to cover that 6 to 7 cents in assessed valuation, we can use TIF and edit to buy that down, so that at the end of the day, the intent is to keep this project a net neutral impact on the tax rate. Going forward in 6 years, some of those bonds roll off, which will also have an impact on our ability to control that tax rate and the impact of this project. At the same time, we have some of our larger TIF areas will be rolling off, which will also have a positive impact on the tax rate. and our ability to control this project and its impact on our residents and the taxes they pay. So we have a lot of different backups as we move forward in financing this project.
And you're saying the city's growth position makes it
Yeah, I think
possible for us
Andrew's,
to do this where it's-
Andrew's talked about it in some of the other meetings, but I think the city's grown at around 8% in AV, which helps us which has helped us keep our tax rate down over the last decade or so. And we have a lot of projects out there now that most of you are familiar with that are going on. All of those projects that we're building help spread out that cost to everyone on those AVs, which keeps our rate without much of an impact over the last 10 years. And then we have, like I said, we have edit and TIF funds we can use to help support this project if need be. I don't think it's going to be needed, but if we don't continue that AV growth that we've seen, edit and TIF can help keep us at that tax rate that we've seen over the last 10 years in that vicinity. So while it's a 6 or 7% or 6 or 7 cent impact, that's if nothing happens. If the AV doesn't continue to grow, then that would be the impact. We expect the AV to continue to grow. If we don't have edit and TIF revenue to back it up, but we do, so all of those help us keep that impact on the taxes to a zero impact, or a net zero.
You know, I think it's important to remind people and ourselves that as our population continues to grow, our city continues to grow, the needs of both continue to grow, we as a city have embarked on what I feel is a responsible course of action over the last decade, building a new wastewater plant, the new park office, and, moving the police station. Before I came onto the council, George was here, building a new fire station, and now we need to address our public works department. And you know, I think people have come to expect our public works department to do a 5-star job, and they do. And we need to continue to support that so people get the service that they demand and they require. At the same time, not raising the property tax on people's homes, all of us being one of them, yet still make it happen. Well thought out plan. Appreciate everybody's efforts. I'd say we move forward.
Anybody have any questions about the resolution?
I don't have any questions, but when I first looked at the size of the project and everything, my eyebrows went up a little bit. And then when the plan was presented, they went up again, because to be able to do a project this size and keep it net neutral on property taxes, I think is fantastic. And then to even have the backup afterwards of edit and TIF dollars, should there be a downturn in the economy or problems that are unforeseen. I think that's our insurance that we've got in our back pocket. So again, like Mike said, very well thought out plan.
I didn't realize the original building was 65 years old. And if you look at the lighting and the wiring in there, everything is inefficient. Heating up trucks while people wait for them to heat up for the plows to go outside. time and fuel and money, it just, and you know the utilities in there. It's just a old inefficient building. It's been cobbled together with window air conditioning and all that. It's, and people packed like sardines in different rooms. It really is time to look at, we're almost being forced into doing something, so. But your points are excellent, Jack, thank you.
Yeah, to continue to grow and be efficient and provide excellent services, it takes facilities that can accomplish that. And we've upgraded, like Jack and Mike have said, we've upgraded a lot of different departments over the years. This is a big upgrade, but it's one that's desperately needed.
Would you say that people that are coming to town to invest in our community with jobs, they look at stuff like this?
Oh, yeah,
don't they? They
absolutely.
look, well, what do you want us to invest here? But
Yeah, I mean, people that are going to invest $30 million in your community, they want to know that you're investing in your community too, right? And if you're not making those investments, why should they make those investments? We've not overdone it. We've not built Taj Mahals, but we've kept the city functional and continued to improve its efficiency and effectiveness through these projects. And this is one of those projects that's going to help us be efficient and effective. Part of this and part of what Dustin's crew has done came from some of the strategic plans that the council did a few years back, as well as we hired Baker Tilly to do an efficiency plan in terms of our operational. And one of the things that came out of that was trying to create a centric maintenance, mechanics for maintenance of our fleet. That has fallen on Dustin's crew to do, and his facilities desperately need to be improved to be able to do that. So we are saving the efficiencies, the things that he's talked about, the $500,000 that we're saving by doing those things in-house. But that takes facilities that are capable to do that efficiently and safely for the employees that we hire as well. So that's some of this project as well, is creating those efficiencies that came from those strategic plans and studies that we've done.
Jeff, do you have any comments?
Really good comments by all of you. Former Mayor Joe is not here, but about 10 years ago, Jack and Michael probably remember discussions were starting. They are managing out at the street department, but with growth and expectations and responsibilities, you guys just mentioned cost, is it time to make a decision to benefit the city, and what are the costs if we don't? It is, like Jack said, a massive amount of money, but the services that are provided by Dustin and his crew, essential. And then again, Andy from Baker Tilly, I think Randy and Tom, their ability to show us the ways, as Randy always says, to make it work, the burden on the taxpayer. Jack, you're right, taken aback. I was actually taken aback when I looked at the numbers and how well we've done. It's something that, again, this board, the council tonight, needs to seriously consider. Otherwise, I wouldn't be standing here today. And I appreciate you working through it, because it's time to decide, and are we going to invest in this community on the public side to continue to provide all of these important services. The resolution related to what Randy and Tom will probably be here also, it's part of the process, and it's going to take a month here or two for us to work through it. But back to the public side, this is what must be done. And again, I appreciate you guys sitting through these meetings. There's going to be a lot more moving forward, but it's important for us to consider. Any questions for me? And I appreciate Mike and Jack's comments, as well as Jeremy helping out, as well as these gentlemen. They're here to answer any questions that you have, and I'm sure there probably will be as we get move forward with this. But again, we're here to answer any questions that you may have. Mike?
When you mentioned the three here from Baker Tilly, that should, it gives me peace of mind. It should, and I think it gives everybody else up here peace of mind. It should give the public peace of mind that, these are financial experts. This is what they do. And when they come to us and they say, you can do this, it makes me comfortable
Right.
in my own shoes and in my own mind that, because I'm not a financial genius. That's why we hire the experts. That's why you have lawyers and accountants and financial advisors. And when they say, yes, you can do this, just like the TV commercials, you can do this.
Right.
I feel comfortable doing it, and I hope the public trusts our judgment and feeling comfortable with the advice we're given.
Andy could share with you, and again, you guys have looked at it, but the burden on the taxpayer, because of tax caps, most residential property owners will not see an impact. Some of the lower valued homes will, but that impact is minimal per month. I think you said $22 for the year, maybe $2 a month on the low end. And businesses, commercial and industrial, will face a burden, but per $100,000, I think the increase you said is right around $65 a year. And so, a $1 million commercial or industrial property will be looking at about $650 more a year for this. And again, you think about costs. What if we don't do anything? What if we do? I've heard the building out at Boggs was built in 1960, and then all these add-ons and additions. This effort should be a 3-4 decade effort for this community. And so perspective there and what that facility could do to serve residents, the costs on a 13 million up to $14.5 million project, not as much if you run it out over 2, 3, 4 decades. And that's what this project will do. None of us will be in this room, and that building will continue to serve this community. So that's the idea. My reaction there, Mike. Andy, what did I say? Everything okay? Are you okay with what I said? You got to be careful with me, but these are the guys that know what they're talking about. Appreciate your comments, I really do. And any other questions for any of the gentlemen that are here? Dustin took you through current realities and then what the project could look like, working with Robinson Construction. It's a BOT process. That was the agreement. Remember, we're here too because if you want to move forward, we do need to make this decision early spring to assist with construction.
You just hit on something that I think is important to note, that the construction company, should this project proceed, is local.
It is local. So is the financing with Lake City, with how it's worked through the BOT process, right?
Trying to keep everything
It is
local.
local. That can be said. I agree with you. Any other comments or questions for me?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mike, I think making that point that we're keeping the dollars local sometimes gets lost on people. But keeping it local keeps a greater percentage of the money that we're spending on the project local. And it rolls over throughout the community.
Yes, it does.
Rather than a construction company that
I
is
think I
outside.
heard one time every dollar that's spent in your community makes its way around 7 times. I don't know if it's still true or not.
And remember that the committee that was formed about 1.5 years, 2 years ago by Mayor Tolmer Jack, you might have been on that group. There were 5 contractors or agencies that came in and discussed with us what this project could be or what they could do. Robinson was one of them, and it was unanimous. They are the group, not only that took us through what could be done, but also what you just said, Jack, they're local too.
Yeah.
And so that was the added value. It's not only the best presentation, what do we need, but then also, hey, it's a local company right here, our neck of the woods.
Yeah, at the time, I believe we were all leaning a certain way. And after the presentations, after really vetting them, we shook our heads and was like, yeah, no, this Robinson would be our best bet as a city. So,
And the footprint gets a little better. I don't know if that was discussed with buying up the 3 properties. That's part of the cost. But we're going to have a larger property because 3 residential properties will come down.
About that it'll be built,
Yeah.
you can stay there the way the facilities being moved
Yeah.
to help you through the next 2 years.
Yeah, so again, Robinson has acquired the 3 properties to the east of the current facility. There was a large change in topography out there with the hill, a need for a retaining wall and such that would be, again, something else that would have to be maintained as well, but also limited footprint of growth. So acquiring those 3 properties allows us to shift the street department to the east, up towards Center Street, and give us the ability, A, to work out of our current facility for another 2 years during construction to be able to still function, hopefully at a very high level at the same point, but also gives us the next 30, 40 years to expand to back towards the creek to the west if need be, once the final construction in those buildings are torn down. So again, just this project did not start here in the last 6, 8 months, even the last couple of years. I mean, we originally met with architects and in inventory and different project growths, different overall growth of the city as well as equipment, to get a footprint of what kind of square footage we would need. Looking at the future, what kind of growth and employee needs. This was definitely not a shoot from the hip. We started that process back in 2020. So, we're 5 years into planning this out to make sure. And again, shared with some of the council members in a couple of the meetings that, as the mayor touched on, when you're talking a 40-year project at this dollar amount, it comes down to basically about a $300,000 a year investment is what we're hoping for. The bond payment's going to be a little more than that because we're doing it on 20 years, but we're building for 40 years is the ultimate goal. Thank you.
The mayor said something that I know we've been focused on, and the resolution has a number in it of $14.5 million. That's a not to exceed amount, so you'll hear us say it again at the upcoming meetings, the public hearings. That's a number so we don't have to come back and start over again. The expected, and I heard Jeremy reference 13+ million somewhere in there, the project will be less than 14.5 million, but that is the number that we set the not to exceed because we have to go through this 2 or 3 month approval process. And if we don't have a high enough number and it ends up the project would cost more, we'd have to either restart the process or find money elsewhere. So it's not a $14.5 million project. It'll be something less than that. And that'll be something that'll be worked out over the next few months in terms of how much less. But again, that's just a maximum not to exceed.
Always leave yourself a little room, a little wiggle room.
So the resolution allows us to proceed.
Yep. So you're not really approving anything other than the advertisement of the 2 public hearings. This is a kickoff resolution that starts the process, and the council presumably would approve the same resolution tonight, which would start the process moving forward.
Make a motion to approve resolution 2025-0201.
Okay, Bill has made a motion to approve the resolution.
I'll second that.
Okay, Michael seconded that. So the motion is second. All in favor of affirming the resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Abstains, unanimous. So, we've taken that step. Now, February claims.
We have a few. We've got 2 marsh claims for Indiana American Water, 163.49, 235.97. We have the annual fee for the Warsaw Commons bond from Regions of $850. 2 Quill office supplies, 98.78, 84.58. We have 2 A&Z engineering claims. One is for County Road 300 North and 200 West in the amount of $8,800. And the other one is for the roundabout design at County Road 200 North and Husky Trail for $5,180. We have DLZ engineering claim for the airport park design, $29,430. Got Barnes and Thornburg for the Warsaw Chemical legal services, $260. Norfolk Southern Railway Company, $9,478.94. This is for Anchorage Road project during the construction for railway services. We have KDI payment of $300 for Peak Med's office space. And then the last monthly claim for West Hill Development LLC, $42,000 for the Shell building.
Any questions about the claims, Jeremy?
Not about the claims, but what's the timeline on that Anchorage Road project?
It's supposed to be going to letting in October of this year. So I doubt any construction will occur this year unless we can
I
move
guess
the,
that's what I'm asking.
unless we move the letting up. So most of the, well, almost all the construction will occur in 2026.
Okay. I'd make a motion to approve our claims.
Okay, Mike's made a motion.
Second.
Please, Bill has seconded. So first and second, all in favor of approving the claims?
Aye.
Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, that's 4. And, let's see here. Oh, just other business, our next meeting, it's a possibility on,
Yeah, so we will have a meeting on February 18th. That'll be one of the public hearings. So we'll have, utilize the last couple of years, we set up 2 meetings per month with the intent that if we need it, we can hold that second meeting. In this case, we will hold it. So our next meeting will be on February 18th.
Put that on my calendar
That's on a
right now.
Tuesday, just so everyone knows.
Yep, because of the holiday.
oh, that's right, yeah.
Is that
4.
Is that 4? Yeah.
That's 4.
I will be absent.
Other than that, I do not have any other business.
All right. Any other matters anybody want to bring up? Not? I know you have meetings tonight. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Oh, Bill? is
Second.
ready. We have a first and a second. So, this meeting's adjourned.
Thank you.
Sorry? Build, occupy,
Yeah.
transport.